David Des Roches joins us now, former Pentagon Director of Arabian Peninsula Affairs, and you're now a professor at the Thaya Marshall Institute. You're joining us from Solomon's Island, Maryland. It's great to have you back in the program. So the talks right now between Iran and Oman are about the specific routes that ships would follow in and out of the strait. Why does it matter where the ships pass, and what is the U.S. interest here?
Well, the U.S. interest is the easier one. That's free navigation. And it's more than just a U.S. interest. It's shared by a lot of countries. There were 135 countries that signed on to the UN resolution calling for the immediate opening of the strait, mostly because of the energy. But other countries, to include China and Russia, are very concerned that this would establish a precedent, say, for Sweden and Denmark to bottle up the Russian Baltic fleet, or Spain and Morocco to charge fees for passage of Gibraltar. So the issue in the short term, I think what they're talking about is, simply put, Iran recognizing Omani sovereignty. I think that Oman would want to have commercial ships from neutral countries as well as other countries be able to transit its waters without the threat of Iranian attack. Iran, on the other hand, asserts a right to attack not just warships, but also neutral civilian ships from all nations throughout the entirety of the strait, not just denying the right of innocent passage in Iranian waters, but also denying Oman sovereignty to permit passage in its own waters.
As I understand it, part of the goal for Iran, from Iran's perspective, is to maintain just enough control over the strait to deter future U.S. attacks, right? To establish this idea for future American leaders, well, this one, Donald Trump, and for future U.S. presidents, establish the idea that there is too high a price to pay if the U.S. attacks Iran again, and therefore they won't do it. Do you think that this will work?
Well, their attacks have not been directed against American ships. They've been directed against neutral ships. And,
but that's still a high cost for the world and for the U.S.
It's high cost in the long term, but to attack a neutral in the idea that they would force another country to do what you want them to do is pretty close to a textbook definition of a war crime. And but Iran clearly, geography gives Iran the ability to disrupt the sea lanes when they want to do it. That will happen whether it's recognized or not. Whenever Iran feels it can do it, it will do it, because geography is like the Terminator. You can't bargain with it and it doesn't feel remorse. So Iran has that ability if they choose to exercise it and pay the consequences in it. I think the bigger issue here in the short term is to restore the rights, the ancient rights, really, that neutral civilian shipping can transit in the sovereign waters of a country other than Iran without the threat of Iranian attack. I think that's the baseline for an agreement.
I mean, Professor, isn't the toothpaste out of the tube, so to speak, in the sense that Iran has proven that they can threaten shipping through the strait, wherever the ships are, really, whether it's the southern route closer to Oman, the northern route closer to Iran. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, exactly. And toothpaste is an apt metaphor. So because this is not really a military strategy, it's more akin to the market confidence you have if, say, somebody puts cyanide in 2 of the 4 million tubes of toothpaste that are on the market in Europe. All 4 million of those tubes of toothpaste become useless. So some sort of agreement that leads to Iran formally announcing that it will cease to attack neutral civilian shipping, whether in Omani waters or in international waters, is really what's needed here. The insurance market, this is not a military problem. This is a commercial problem of insurance. The insurance market needs to have confidence that Iran will cease attacking civilian shipping, and then normal trade will presumably resume to the benefit of all of the Gulf littoral partners, to include Iran, as well as their trading partners.
And what about the other Hormuz issue? Because the first one that we've discussed is free passage, unhindered passage for ships through the strait. The second one is any financial compensation. Would ships have to pay? Do you think that the U.S., and of course that's a red line for the U.S., they've said no, passage has to be free. Do you think they can enforce that?
Yes, they can enforce it to a degree by sanctioning ships that pay these tolls. Look, this is an unacceptable precedent because then Singapore, and by the way, China, it will be in the foremost of opposing this because Singapore and Malaysia could impose fees. There could be conceivably three sets of fees that every ship bringing oil to China would have to do. And again, Spain and Morocco could do this. And of course, Russia would oppose it because Sweden and Denmark could impose these fees on Russian Baltic shipping. So this is a precedent that's unacceptable. There have in the past been some fees, but that's in response to a naturally required service like ice breaking or dredging of a channel. But I think a fee to
But that isn't that kind of the argument that we're hearing Iran make? They're saying that ships could pay for the pollution that they cause, that they could pay for future shipping services. Demining is also something that they might want to pay for or might be made to pay for. In other words, the payment can be dressed up as a number of different things. Yeah,
but I think anybody who spends more than 5 minutes will see what it is. I mean, let's start with the easy one, demining. So basically, Iran is charging a fee to clear mines that Iran itself has laid. That's a textbook definition of extortion. The environmental fees, every littoral nation in the world could do that. And theoretically, under not just the Law of the Sea Treaty, but under established law of the sea, maritime partners are supposed to maintain insurance to deal with potential environmental impact. And, incidental environmental impact, say from discharge of cruise sewage, is something that can be dealt with in normal negotiations. So if every country in the world, the precedent is what it's important here. If every littoral country in the world were to start to do this, global shipping would cease.
Professor David Des Roches, thank you very much for joining us on Al Jazeera. Great to have you.
Thanks for your patience.